Hey, this is Lance with 20-Sided Night, and today we're going over the rules for radiation in Starfinder. Radiation starts on page 403 of the Starfinder core rulebook, and to get a better understanding, we're also going to take a quick look at the poison disease track on page 414. Discuss the sources of radiation, and finally how to detect and protect yourself from radiation and its effects. Also, a little later, I'll be exposing myself to radiation. The targeted area might surprise you. But before we go into all that, if you'd subscribe, it'd really be appreciated. For the purposes of game mechanics, radiation is a poison-type disease affecting constitution. Upon exposure, a creature who is poisoned, regardless of success, loses the number of hit points equal to the DC based on severity, -10. While in an area of radiation, you must make a fortitude saving throw based on the severity of radiation to which you have been exposed. If your disease reaches into the impaired state or beyond, you must exceed a fortitude saving throw each round with a DC of 18. This DC is mitigated through armor and a few other variables we'll discuss later. If you fail this saving throw, you'll contract radiation sickness. There is no cure DC for radiation and must be treated through either magic, like the remove radioactivity spell, or technological means specifically targeting radiation. Recovery from radiation poisoning requires rest just like any other poisoning. If you've contracted radiation sickness, the fortitude save is the same DC as the level of radiation that causes radiation sickness. Once per day, you must exceed a fortitude save or progress through the physical disease track of healthy, latent, weakened, impaired, debilitated, bedridden, comatose, and finally dead. While fatal if not treated, you cannot pass the disease on to others, as radiation sickness is not contagious. So if you have a friend sick with radiation sickness, don't be afraid to give your sticky pal a hug. Radiation comes from a myriad of sources, be it from an exposed power core on your starship, deep space oddities like stellar rays, weapons, magic, and more. From wherever source, unless otherwise stated, radiation is strongest in the epicenter, and radiates out in a sphere, being able to travel into objects and creatures, thus contaminating them. Radiation gets weaker the further it travels from its source. For example, if your starship has a leaky reactor core, after a bout of starship combat, it'd probably have a severe amount of radiation, 20 feet from the core, high 40 feet away, medium at 60, and finally at 80 feet, low levels of radiation. The gradient and scale from this radiation is largely dependent on the source, like in the case of the Ilikoth, which gives out radiation as an aura up to 30 feet, with medium levels centered on itself at 15 feet, and low for an additional 15 feet thereafter. Some weapons might expose the wielder to radiation in addition to or in lieu of their intended target. Weapons with the radioactive property can potentially be one of these. On a natural 1, the wielder of a radioactive weapon must succeed a fortitude saving throw. The DC for this weapon is equal to the weapon's critical hit DC, and is considered low-level radiation. Another way to use radiation offensively is through the use of weapons with the irradiate special property. These weapons require a target to succeed a fortitude saving throw or contract radiation sickness. The DC for these weapons is the weapon's critical hit DC, and considered low-level radiation regardless of the save DC. A variety of other weapons, including but not limited to gamma rifles, microfusion rifles, rad cannons, and rad shot, can expose both the wielder and target to radiation sickness. Certain objects like apsium, also called the Fiverstone, are radioactive. Apsium can be used as a power source, and it's sometimes used in high-capacity batteries. An area containing apsium can be dangerous, whether in apsium mines or objects made of the radioactive metal. Small and medium weapons made of apsium give off a low-level radiation at 5 feet, with large weapons having a radius of 10 feet. There are ways to detect radiation before it affects the player or even before entering an area exposed to the invisible death. Most commonly for spellcasters is by using the detect radiation spell. Some technological items, such as the radiation sweeper in the armory, are ideal for detecting the harmful rays. The radiation badge is often in common supply by those working on uncharted asteroids or in mining operations. These small apparatuses warn the wearer when they're entering an area containing any level of radiation. While always on, this badge must be recharged after 7 days, similar to the environmental protections of armor. It could also be argued that successful life science and physical science checks can be made to determine if an area has been exposed to radiation. Use life science to discover if the regional flora and fauna show signs of radiation poisoning, like tumors, mutations, unnatural hair loss, and so on. Probably with easier DCs for higher severity radiation, as mutations and the like would be easier to spot. Something like a DC 25 life science check to recognize signs of radiation poisoning in an area, then a plus 1 through 3 circumstance bonus for each level of radiation beyond low. And maybe throw in an added insight bonus if the investigator has a way to compare the exposed sample to a healthy one. Physical science on structures and the like may be difficult since buildings don't grow a second room no matter how much metal you put in the microwave, but it could be easier for someone to spot a clump of unshielded apsium or a fusion core showing signs of failure if they know what they're looking for. Moving on to how to protect yourself from radiation, basic environmental suits can protect the wearer from harmful levels of radiation by adding a plus 1 circumstance bonus to saving throws against radiation. Most suits of armor also come with environmental protections as long as it's in working condition. Wearing armor gives immunity to the wearer against low levels of radiation and grants a plus 4 circumstance bonus against saving throws at higher levels. Armor at 7th level and higher grants immunity to medium levels of radiation and a plus 6 circumstance bonus to higher saves. Just keep in mind that most armor does not protect against radiation sickness, no matter its level. An exception to this is reactor guard armor, which grants immunity to all levels of radiation, even when environmental protections are inactive, and you cannot contract radiation sickness while in reactor guard armor. Additionally, the radiation buffer armor upgrade can add an additional plus 2 bonus to your initial saving throw against the radiation. This still does not apply to any secondary effects of radiation, such as radiation sickness. Keep in mind, the radiation protections granted for most armor take a standard action to activate or deactivate, and their protections last a number of days equal to its item level. So you may be in danger if you're unaware of an area exposed to radiation. This duration need not be expended all at once, but must be expended in 1-hour increments. Side note, as to why someone would wear clothes instead of armor, maybe wearing armor in diplomatic situations might lead one to believe negotiations can turn hostile at a moment's notice, but wearing your best business suit and a winning smile can put those involved at ease. Or just look sketchy to Absalom security seeing someone walking around in their hidden soldier armor and armed to the teeth on their way to the sip instruct. Other items such as the zoolite vital seed can absorb radiation in an area and could, with a bit of crafting, be fashioned into a sort of biomechanical radiation dampener. That about covers radiation, how to get it, how to prevent it, and how to treat it. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends. It lets YouTube know we're doing a good job and helps us grow. I'm off to irradiate my right eye now. Thanks again for watching 20 Sided Night, and bye for now.